Sorry, you too.
Thank you. A group of leaders literally given the task of trying to save our planet. It was supposed to have come up with a plan of some sorts by now. Things are still up in the air. Nick Paton-Walsh is at the COP24 climate summit in Poland's coal country. Nick, what is the difficulty?
Well, it's really, I think, getting 100 separate nations to all feel they have a degree of buy-in into an incredibly complicated technical framework. Remember, the Paris Agreement had everyone said, yeah, let's save the planet, great, but they didn't work out quite how they would do it. This document explains the transparency, the checks, to be sure people are actually not cheating and genuinely are reducing their emissions. As I say, 100 nations have to sign in. The US really have been on the sidelines here, kind of, as one observer said, chucking eggs politically, although there are some suggestions their career diplomats have not necessarily got in the way of the complicated task of working this framework out. But tonight, on paper, we were supposed to have had an agreement. We've seen a draft text. We've not seen an updated draft text yet, and we've had some updates we were supposed to be getting from speakers here put back, possibly until tomorrow. It's dragging into the weekend, and there are some concerns that maybe because the task is bigger than anybody had thought, or the draft text being put around is simply too weak. We'll see as time goes by, but I should point out, Richard, we've recently been looking into one of the key drivers of climate change here, and that's actually beef and dairy agriculture, oddly enough. One of the things that form part of everyone's diet, increasingly so. Here's what we saw in Texas.
Beef and dairy agriculture are a key and often overlooked cause of the greenhouse gases mankind must rapidly curtail by 2030 so we don't see irrevocable change to our world.
Well, think about it this way. Half a pound of beef causes as much greenhouse gas to be emitted as driving 55 of these cars for 1 mile.
We drive out as the sun rises over beef country, 12 million cattle in Texas, where the extraordinary toll of something so natural as beef on the planet emerges.
Well, the first thing that hits you is just the smell. There's just so many, so tightly packed together.
There are 19,000 here on this feedlot, fed the corn that gives their flesh the fatty taste we're used to. We have to make drastic changes by 2030 to keep global warming to 1.5 degrees. If we don't, beef and dairy will cause 10% of greenhouse gases. If we do meet other 2030 emissions targets, they'll cause much more, 30%. Either way, we must act. The United States and world will likely this year eat a record amount of beef. We're going the wrong way. But it is the bottom line, livelihoods, that understandably matter more here.
Now, when I said global warming, you said they say. Do you believe in it, or do you think this is all just a bit of a...
I don't believe in it.
Why not?
I just don't.
Why?
It's hard for me to believe that global warming has something to do with the rainfall.
What would it take to change your mind about that?
There'd have to be a drastic change. Yes, we go through some droughts, but that's just a normal period. Here the last couple of years, we hadn't had much winter.
You're saying you're seeing it get warmer down here already, but you wanted to get really bad before you believe the scientists.
Right.
I got brisket, I got sausage.
So how do we change? Or can we? There is hope, and it is both distant and tiny. Enter cultured meat. It's never seen a cow, doesn't emit any gas, and grows in a dish. And it's developing fast.
In 2013, this would be about $20,000. In 2-3 years from now, it's 25 cents.
What does it taste like?
This tastes like meat.
Mosa Meat's Mark Post is getting funding from food giants and even the co-founder of Google. Their process is natural to a point, giving a single stem cell taken from a cow all the nutrients it needs to divide again and again, but no instruction, as with a living cow, to stop.
Are you vegan yourself?
I'm not. I should be, but I'm not.
You like meat?
Yes, I do.
And is any of this
It's kind of sinful, I think, but I do.
Consider this. It's never going to happen, but if we all went vegan tomorrow, we would cut greenhouse gas emissions by 25%. A huge change to cure part of the problem. Are we even ready for that, or more, to keep existing as we do now?
Nick Paton-Walsh, you're a brave man questioning beef. in the heart of Texas. The interesting thing there is that most of us, myself certainly included, really had no idea. We think of coal factories, we think of industrial plants, cars, aircraft, but beef?
Yeah, I mean, this is all part of the broad rethink of our daily lives, frankly, that has to happen in the next decade if we're not going to see what we saw last summer become part of sort of the quotidian lifestyle: intense forest fires raging across Europe, significant storms, extreme weather, a cold snap in March that hit the UK like we hadn't seen for ages. I mean, it's quite extraordinary what we're already seeing, yet there are still people here, elsewhere, debating the science. The science is not up for debate. It's the same thing that tells you when the sun rises tomorrow. It's simply just a fact. And so what is strange, really, is I think the gap between what we know is going to happen and what we're prepared to do about it. And so meetings like we're seeing here in Poland, which sort of drudge slowly towards the end with bickering here and there, with a lot of, frankly, lacking of international leadership and consensus, really leave people like you and me, who are going to have to make massive changes to our daily lives if we're not going to leave the next generation with an utterly miserable place to live in, give us a bit more wriggle room to think, well, you know, if everyone else is not really going to do it, why should I?
Right, but if everybody else isn't going to give up meat, would you? I mean,
why should I?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking the same thing. You know, I don't want to become vegan. I mean, I'm nothing against vegans as such, but it's not for me. So it raises a really tricky, difficult question, because we can report on it, we can talk about it, but we are as much a part of it, Nick.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, look, you and I both have to agree we have to make changes in our lifestyle. You may have to give up that business class seat travelling on air in future, Richard. That's just one of the ways we waste energy the whole time. And yes, but these are broad changes we all have to accept we have to do, we all have to accept are going to become part of our lives. And there's a new troubling phrase, really, you hear in the background here, of dark realism, that really humanity hasn't got it in it to give up the luxuries of its daily life, to reduce its living standards so that it can continue to exist in the way that it currently does. Imagine that, and imagine how decades from now subsequent generations will look back at us and what we've left them. Richard?
Nick Paton-Walsh, excellent reporting in Poland tonight. Thank you for us.